All right, welcome in everybody. Welcome. um, Thanks for tuning in, checking out my videos here. Today we are going to be playing a little bit of Grixis in Historic. This is a little different than probably some of the lists that you find laying around. I actually found this list from Ali. Um, huge Grixis fan. Don't know if you're going to see this anywhere in like the top played meta decks or anything, but it's a lot of fun. It's been pretty competitive. So we're going to take a minute here. We're going to go through just the deck list sideboard, and then we'll jump into some games. So we'll do this pretty quickly, as I assume that most of you know what the cards are, but we want to go through those just in case you don't. You're newer and you want to check some of these out. So classic Grixis, we are playing a little bit of a hand disruption here and topping the game off with Nicole Bolas's as our main win conditions, and a Lear here to take advantage of all of our spells. So we have Blood Chief's Thirst, 2 Fatal Push, 1 Inquisition Kozilek, 3 Thoughtseize here. This can be changed in some combination. This is a little bit more for a wider target while minimizing life loss as well, because we don't have any incidental ways to gain life. So we don't want to ping ourselves down too much. Fatal Push and Blood Chief's Thirst in here, obviously just cheap removal. Blood Chief's Thirst has the advantage of being able to take down a Planeswalker later in the game, which can be useful. Card that I'm a big fan of is See the Truth. 2 mana, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 in your hand, the rest in the bottom of your library. If you do cast this card from anywhere other than your hand, you draw all 3 of those cards. We also have 2 Heartless Acts in here, just another solid cheap removal at 2 mana. And then the newer introduction over this last set, which was Bloodthirsty Adversary, which is an awesome card. 2 mana, 2/2 with haste, and you may pay 3 mana any number of times when it enters the battlefield. When you do, you put that many 1/1 counters on it, and you can cast that many spells that cost 3 or less from your graveyard without paying their mana costs. So the idea is that you can recast See the Truth and draw 3 cards. So for 5 mana, you get a 3/3 haste and draw 3 cards. Fantastic. Also allows you to cast any of your cheap removal hand interaction. It allows you to cast Expressive Iteration, which is just, one of the best cards that you could be playing right now if you're playing red and blue, which is look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, exile one of them, put one of them into your library. You may cast the exile card this turn. That also works well with See the Truth, because you can exile See the Truth, cast it for 2, and then draw 3 instead. So for 4 mana to draw essentially 4 cards, pretty sweet, because you do get to put one into your hand. 1 copy of Seasoned Pyromancer. It's in here, gives us like a little bit of a board presence, can allow us to put pressure on the opponent depending on the matchup that we're in. It also allows us to draw a couple cards. You can discard cards that you can then later kick out with Bloodthirsty Adversary. A couple more 3 mana spells we can cast with Bloodthirsty Adversary, Prismari Command. Solid utility card, 2 damage to any target, kills a lot of early things you want to kill. Being able to loot, also pretty good. Creating a treasure token to ramp us into our better spells, great. Also gives us access to our cheap 1 mana interaction. And then destroying target artifacts, very real when you're playing against like Torrential Gearhulks or Witch Oven decks, or Wildcat decks, or whatever you want to call them. Same with Culligan's Command here, is just a great 2-for-1 here. Returning target creature card from your graveyard to our hands relevant, as we do have Bolas's and Bloodthirsty Adversary. Target player discards a card, always great. Destroy target artifact, same reasons. And Culligan's Command deals 2 damage to any target. So very similar effects here. This is just some hand disruption, and being able to hit somebody with this and kick it back out, you can really impact not only the board but your opponent's hand, which is what we're trying to do, is limit the amount of resources they have available so we can get to the late game and win. We also run 2 copies of Yahenni's Expertise. Just a solid sweeper for the early threats, and that's what this deck needs to do, survive to the mid-late game. Also lets us play one of our awesome 3 mana cards for free without paying its mana cost. So being able to wipe the board, hit the opponent's hand, put a creature on the battlefield, draw cards, whatever it is. We can do that for free, which is great. Being able to cast 2 spells on turn 4. We also have a couple copies of Nicole Bolas the Ravager. 4 mana, 4/4, makes the opponent discard, exactly what we want to be doing. 7 mana, you can flip this over to the Nicole Bolas side. At the point in which you've done this, you're probably winning the game or pretty close to it. 7 Loyalty gives you card advantage, destroys creatures or planeswalkers, allows you to reanimate something from any graveyard, or if you ever get to the point of -12, you're just going to win the game because it exiles their entire library. And then at the top end, of course, we have Big Daddy Bolas here at 5 mana for gets the it gets the abilities of all planeswalkers, which is great if there's other planeswalkers in the battlefield, especially if you have this flipped. You can just +2 this and draw cards and get to his ult really quickly. But again, +1, we're denying the opponent any sort of resources by exiling a card from their hand, battlefield, or like lands, which is pretty great. At the point that you're starting to slam the opponent's lands or permanents on the battlefield because you've run them out of cards, the game's pretty much over. And then we have 2 copies of Lear, Disciple of the Drowned in here. As you notice, we don't play any counter spells being in a blue deck. This is more of just like a punish your opponent style, disrupt their hand. And then we get to recur and play all these cards from our all these spells from our graveyard for with flashback, which is fantastic. So all in all, a lot of good utility spells. Get to the late game, utilize those utility spells from your graveyard, and then win with the boluses. Card advantage is no issue here. The lands are lands. We do run 2-man lands, 1 Hall of the Storm Giants, 1 Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Both of these just good ways to kind of close out the game. This one also has Graveyard Hate, which is incredibly relevant in Historic and Standard. There's a lot of people that are trying to play out of the graveyard, so if you can get some utility out of your land outside of being able to kill your opponent and deny them more resources, that's just great. Then on the sideboard here, we just have a toolbox based on the matchups that you're in. So you have Duresses, for your Jeskai control, things like that. Brave Enfeeblement for your more aggressive decks. Humans is very popular right now. This also kills Lurrus if you wanted it to. A fair amount of targets that you can hit with Brave Enfeeblement. Ingress Rampage, just one of Rakdos' solid removal spells. The Sacrifice Clause gets around the target, hexproof or ward, it gets around that stuff, which is great. So sacrifice an artifact, creature, or planeswalker, all 3 relevant things in Historic that you want to be hitting. There's 2 copies of Anger of the Gods, just another nice sweeper for those aggro decks with the upside of exiling all the creatures that were killed this way, so that's fantastic. 2 Chandra Acolyte of Flame. She's got 2 purposes here. One of them is that when you're playing against like a mid-rangey or like control deck, late game deck, what you want to do is bring her in. Being able to plus her and deal damage to the opponent every single turn is quite good. And then also the +0 of putting a loyalty counter on each red planeswalker you control is very relevant. As in similar matchups, you might be bringing Chandra Torch of Defiance, and it also counts for Nicol Bolas as he does cost red mana. So she's just also a really cheap, easy way to pump up your planeswalkers and get them to their bigger abilities faster, which is quite good. One Thought Distortion in here for, again, Jeskai decks, blue-white control, any sort of decks like that can't be countered, and it exiles their graveyard. They exile all non-creature, non-land cards from that player's hand and graveyard. It's an incredibly powerful late-game spell, especially when your opponent's sitting there with a bunch of counter spells in their hand or removal waiting to attack. So perfect there. Couple Gold Blanks, again, we just have more hand disruption. It also costs 3 mana, so we can kick it and cast it for free with Bloodthirsty Adversary. We can also cast it with the Yahenni's Expertise. Feels pretty good. Wiping your opponent's board and then making them discard 2 cards, and then also the added bonus of exiling their graveyard. So a lot of value off this card post board. And that's pretty much the sideboard. I think that there's some adjustments that can be made. Maybe like a more hardcore sweeper, like a Shadow's Verdict, something like that, possibly. But overall, the deck's just been really fun, and I enjoy it. I like doing these types of things, and it's worked pretty well so far. Some games are good, some games are not, but hey, it's a sweet deck, so we're going to check that out. And if you have any questions about the deck or suggestions on, maybe things to change or whatever it is, feel free to leave a comment, let me know. But for now, let's jump into a few games, see how it goes. It is best of 3. I generally play best of 3 over best of 1, unless it is limited. Limited, I play best of 1 a lot just because I like just like kind of going through and playing against a bunch of different decks. It's also a little bit easier in draft to not always have to worry about a sideboard. But in best of 3 or in constructed, I always play best of 3. Good practice. Pretty decent hand. If we get Thoughtseize, this is gonna be really bad. But the main problem is we have all tap lands. But it's definitely a playable hand. Alright, so no matter what we do, we can't cast Expressive Iteration. Okay. So this will actually work for us here. We get to Thoughtseize the opponent. Kraken Drake, another Dreadhort. Alright, they don't really have anything else to do, so we're going to get rid of this. We're just going to push Dread Horde. We're actually going to cast this turn. Hoping to find a blue land to put in our hand. Found one. Oh no, all of our lands come into battlefield tap now. They don't have any spells in the graveyard, so I'm not too concerned there. Want another blue land here. We're gonna go ahead and fire off See the Truth. Take this Bolus. We can actually resolve Bolus next turn. If they hit a land, they can Arclight Phoenix. The upside here is that we have Yahennis. I want to get our man land down because that's a fast way for us to close out the game. The only problem is Yahennis doesn't hit Crackling Drake. It's kind of the downside here. But what we can do, could flashback See the Truth or Thoughtseize here to get rid of one of those, but I don't think that's exactly what we want to be doing here. I think we're just going to go for Bolus. Because even if they cast Phoenix next turn, they can't kill Bolus. That was smart doing that before combat, because now they can cast Consider for free with Dread Horde. Oh, now they got the looting. That's dangerous. Okay, so we have an untapped land, so we should be able to play Yahennis this turn. So we can play Yahennis this turn, and then put Bloodthirsty on the battlefield and kick it. And then we can cast we can cast Thoughtseize for free or See the Truth here. Hmm. We have two Crackling Drakes, but Blitz might be pretty bad. Let's just get rid of Blitz. Run out Bolus here. And then we have Leer next turn. We also have Lethal on board right now with our manland. So they're going to be able to get one Arclight back right now. They do have Faithless Looting, so there's a potential for them to get like 2 or 3. But they need a lot to kill us this turn. Oh man, they might have it. I looked away for a sec. Okay, no, they still have one Phoenix. They're not in a position to attack. But either way, the opponent loses. Nice. There we go. We got a little lucky. They weren't able to hit Arclight Phoenixes early enough, but we were able to take away game 1, which is nice. So here, Anger is pretty good, and so is Go Blank. Both of those are pretty reasonable against the opponent. They're trying to get out the Arcanist and cast spells from the graveyard, so we want to be able to exile those in their hand. Culligan's Command and Prismari Command are both still pretty good as it kills Arclight Phoenix. Making them discard cards is not as good, but if we can get their cards in the graveyard and then hit them with Go Blank, that's like really good for us. So probably go down that route. I think Inquisition is still fine. We want Fatal Pushes and Blood Chief's Thirst. Yahenni's Expertise is still good. There's a lot of the deck that's like still pretty good against them. I think Seasoned Pyromancer is not very good. Chandra might be okay in this matchup as well. The Go Blank is obviously a lot better against like control decks, but we can always discard this. The main value we're going to get out of this is try to hit them when they have a Phoenix or 2 in the graveyard and exile them all. It's kind of like the idea here. I think we're going to cut 2 Thoughtseize. Maybe that's incorrect, but I think that cutting a couple Thoughtseize is fine, and I think that cutting Prismari Command is fine also. Like we have ample removal. We brought in some sweepers. We really want this hand interaction here. Kozilek doesn't hit too much for them. I guess it hits things like Quench, Blitz. Like it hits some limited targets, so maybe that's fine. We'll try that. We'll try the 1-1 here. The couple gold blanks for the graveyard hate and kind of see how that goes. No, can't really keep it. If one of these was a blue land, we would, because we have See the Truth, but hand's pretty bad outside of that. You can keep this. Put back like 1 See the Truth. Yeah, the new opt is so much better, especially for decks like this. The fact that you can just put things in the graveyard, quite good. All right, so now we have a Go Blank, which is perfect. Check out what the opponent has. Okay, Abundant Harvest, couple Blitz, a Faithless Looting, and a Negate. They're stuck on a land. They could draw 2, discard 2. I don't care if they discard anything that's here, so I think we're just going to take the Abundant Harvest. Oh, I guess they can cast that for free. That was pretty stupid. That was a mistake on my part. Probably should have just taken the Negate for the Blitz. So they might be able to pop. If they can pop this turn, then we're kind of screwed. Like if they hit Phoenixes here, we're in a bad spot. They hit one. Problem is they have negate up right now. But if we can get them to cast another spell and take negate down, hitting them with go blank here would be really good. Like if they discard like 2 more Phoenixes right now and then cast a spell, I think we'd be in a really good spot. So we're going to pass turn. We have Fatal Push and Culligan's Command up. Okay, got rid of Test of Talents here. That seems fine. But I want to get this out of the way right now. So we denied them a bunch of resources. We can Heartless Act the Crackling Drake, though we are going to take a bunch of damage this turn. Damn. Oh, they had another Test of Talents. Okay, so the opponent got this game. We couldn't deal with the Crackling Drake in time. It's one of those play draw advantages. I think the setup's relatively fine. Like I said, maybe the Chandra can come in. We could have, I probably, if we could have go blank them the turn before when they had the negate up, unfortunately, it might have been a little bit better position, but Crackling Drake was a house on us too. I should probably have looked more aggressively for a mulligan to take a hand that was a little bit more proactive against the opponent instead of reactive. I think this is okay. I don't think it's great, but I think it's okay. We could have shocked that in there for the Fatal Push on turn 1, but I don't think it's generally necessary. If they have like Mystical Dispute or something, that's fine. Interesting. I didn't know that they play the Royal Scions. Not a card you see very often in Constructed. I've seen it sometimes with like the draw 2 decks, but... Alright, well we're hitting way too many lands here. The upside is next turn we could play Bloodthirsty Adversary and then Ancestral Recall. Also a little short on blue mana, we only have 2. Okay, so they have 1 Phoenix. Okay, so what's the best way for us to do this here? We could play Bolus and minus on the Arclight Phoenix. We could plus, but then they'll just discard a card anyway. We could also kill this, but I don't think that's going to be as paramount here. So I think what we're going to do, play this, play Bull Daddy. I think we'll just minus on this, because it's going to require them to have multiple other spells, and if we can just slow them down for a minute, we should be fine. So this is quite unfortunate, though. They have a pretty good hand, especially with that opt. Holy crap! So it looks like they're going to get Phoenix back and be able to kill our Bolus. If we get to untap with Bolus, that'd be quite surprising. Pretty happy though. Oh yep, there's the third. So that puts a kibosh on old Bull Daddy. It is also preserving our life total a little bit, which is fine. Okay, so we hit a go blank, which is quite nice. A little late though. That's one of the coolest things about the deck right there. Just put a turn 5, put down a 3/3 that just drew me 3 cards. What crazy good value. I mean, the game's still looking pretty good in our opponent's favor. We're 1 mana shy of being able to Bloodthirsty Adversary, kicked, plus cast Go Blank. They also have Counterspell up. It's not entirely great for us. I imagine that they have a counterspell in their hand at this point. Well, I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to try. Okay, so they did have it. Unfortunate. Now we probably lose because if they have like Crackling Drake in their hand, they play Crackling Drake and then give max velocity to it, and then it's game over. So I imagine that's what will be done. Like either way here, we could have played Bloodthirsty Adversary, and if all they had was Test of Talents, kicked it, but then they still would have just exiled whatever card that we decided to play anyway. So that's a little unfortunate. We're actually just gonna hold back here. Try to block the Dread Horde in case they don't have Crackling Drake. But either way, I think we're probably out of this game now. The opponent's too far ahead. We're at 8 life. They have a draw engine going. And, oh yeah, I forgot about that clause too. So there goes that. But overall, not bad games. We drew too many lands early on. I'd say like we had like 6, 7 lands. So we drew a lot, a little bit slower than what we needed. Maybe like bringing in a Chandra or something like that's actually pretty reasonable. So, all right. Well, opponent got us here. This is why we need a little bit more interaction for graveyards, I think. But it's hard for us to play it because you can't really play Grafdigger's Cage since we play a fair amount of cards from our graveyard. So there's like the consideration of like Leyline. But, you know, Leyline is 4 mana. It's great if it's in your opening hand. It only affects your opponent's graveyard, not yours. So there's some upside. So I was thinking about maybe just putting a copy of that in the sideboard as just like a one-off way to try to deal with those things. Yeah, we can keep this hand. See the truth into pretty decent spells here. Start with the Shipwreck Marsh here, and then we'll shock in the Steam Vents for the See the Truth. Depending what we're playing against, I suppose is the other thing, but either way, that's probably just the play. I really like these new lands. Enter untapped if you control 2 or more lands. I like those quite a bit. Take a land. Oh, somebody's playing Necro Blossom Snarl. People play that card? Okay. Here, so this will actually be quite nice. Kill this, do this. Then we can Thoughtseize them. Okay, so we don't actually care about most of these. I don't know what kind of jank deck my opponent's playing, but Maybe it's not jank, I just haven't seen this deck before. And typically, if you're playing Historic, you're not playing Necroblossom Snarl. This is like the basic rule. Not something you're really playing. We have Bolus next turn, which is a little bit of downside because they do have a Murderous Rider in their hand. What I think we'll do... Yeah, I think we'll just jam this and just start pushing. Because granted, if they draw a land, a black land, they can remove it, but it's going to get 2 cards total. Like, we gain a card, they lose a card here, and then they lose a card on the killing. Unless they cast Murderous Rider, then it's just half of a card. But and for Bloodchief's Thirst to kill either one of my creatures or Planeswalker, it's a total of 4 mana. So they're 2 mana off that, 1 mana off of this. Shadow's Verdict doesn't matter. Okay, so they got a tap black land. Oof, man, these lands the opponent's got to play right now did not feel good. There's not a 2 mana destroy target Planeswalker spell, is there? Is there one that I don't know about? Since they're so far behind on mana, now that they're only able to single spell here, so it's either they have to choose, yeah, like they had to choose between this bolus or that bolus, and then you just lose either way at that point. So it looks like they're just trying to play some green-black big stuff with a slew of removal, which isn't too bad for us. We don't really play removal. This might be a matchup in which bringing in like Chandras are probably pretty good. I think Thoughtseize and Inquisition are probably still fine. Fatal Push is probably fine. Bloodchiefs is fine. I don't think like Yahenni's is going to be as good as you want it to. It looks like, well, they have Goreclaw. It's like the only thing that we really saw. Goreclaw, Garrick's. Okay, yeah, my opponent's not playing a real deck. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. A lot of their guys have 3 toughness. So by a lot, I mean the 3 that we can see have 3 or less toughness. So maybe that's a case to leave in like a Yahenni's. But I think our deck is baseline pretty good against them. I don't think we need the Prismari commands. I think instead of Prismari command, I don't know, I kind of like Chandra's Ingress Rampage. I like these a little bit better. Maybe cut 1 K command and bring in Anger. The K command doesn't seem like it's going to kill a lot. Bring in that. Maybe this is not correct. I'm still trying to figure out the proper sideboarding, especially when you're playing against an off-meta deck. It's kind of like, eh. I don't really know what the opponent has. We saw like 4 of their cards. No, 3 cards outside of removal. What do we have here? Okay. We can see the truth on turn 2. Hopefully find a land, and then we have Heartless Act, Hulligan's Command. This is a pretty nice curve as long as we draw our lands, so I'll keep this. Opponent mulled to 5. That's not very good for the opponent. For us, it's fine. Right. So we have a lot of options. We just need land. Excellent. We're hitting lands. Like to see. Put one into our hand. Probably another land. We already have some removal here. I don't think they're going to double spell on us. Take another land here. We want to make sure we hit those land drops since we have plenty of good spells. Like if they had played a 1-drop, 2-drop, we probably would have taken the sweeper there. Yeah, you're playing Bajuka Bog, alright. Sure. It's like a thing I guess that people do. We're gonna shock this in just so we have K command available. I'd rather have the option of being able to do something at the end of the opponent's turn rather than nothing. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is we're actually gonna shock and make them discard here. Since they're down to 3 cards. Now they're gonna be down to 2, and then we can play Bolus and they'll be down to 1. Classic Grixis, just attack the opponent's resources. They better have kept a creature card. They have Murderous Rider. That's so funny. Sure. Pretty much game for the opponent now. Because now they have to exile either Garruk's Uprising or they're going to have to exile one of their lands when I take Bolus and I cast him. So game's probably over at this point. Okay. They have to get rid of their card advantage. So now we're actually going to cast Heartless Act on Murderous Rider, so that way when we plus Bolus, they can't sacrifice that. They'll be forced to get rid of. Oh, actually, this is much better. We want to keep up the spell that we can play at instant speed, but our opponent 100% lost this game now. Yeah. All right. GG. Our opponent didn't really do anything, but they're probably just playing some homebrew budget deck. You know, it's my guess. We were only in gold. The season just reset, so we're working our way up. So you see a lot of that. You see a lot of new players testing out things. Maybe they're new to Magic and they're just checking out what they think is cool, or they just haven't sunk money into Arena to be able to buy all the rares and the wild cards. So when you're in gold and platinum and silver and stuff, be ready to expect off meta decks and some pretty jank decks, or just some new players in general that make bad decisions. And it's because they're learning. We were all there at one point. Been playing Magic for like 15 years, so I still make tons of mistakes, but a lot of the more common mistakes you kind of avoid as you've been playing for a while. So we're just going to play this so that way we have Fatal Push-Up in case the opponent plays a 1-drop, like a Thraben Inspector, one of the best 1-drops you can play. So we're playing against white humans here. Might be Orzhov or Bant humans. One more land, however, and we're right on cue for getting Bolus here. Non-creature spells. Oh, Thalia is too good. We're actually going to let that resolve. We're going to take 4 here. We'll make him sacrifice the Dauntless Bodyguard here. If we get really lucky and we draw a 3-drop, that would be great. Thoughtseize not really what we want here. They do have to attack with both of these guys to kill Bolus. I think that buys us enough time. Oh, I forgot about their token. That was a mistake on my part there. They are 2 mana off of Collected Company, so keep that in mind. Try to draw 3 cards here. Oh, damn, they're all lands too. That's unfortunate. We couldn't actually cast a spell because Thalia was still on the stack. He was technically still on the battlefield until that resolves, so my spell cost 1 extra to cast. Couldn't do that. Next turn we can double kick our adversary. Okay, so that's pretty good. It's gonna be a lot of value for our opponent here. They can sacrifice Ranger, Captain of Eos. Okay, so now I think we're just dead. All right, well, let's see how dead we might not be. Oh no, we're just dead. They have Brutal Cathar and they have a Giant Killer. All right, so opponent got us there. We could have played it out, but there's my opponent's playing pretty well. You know, there's no way that they're gonna botch that. So we want Rave Enfeeblement. We want Anger of the Gods. Ingress is also pretty decent. We just want like a bunch of removal. Thoughtseize, not so much. Thoughtseize is it's damaging to us and it's like a little bit slower. It's not necessarily what we want to do. Inquisition's still fine. It hits everything besides Collected Company, which I think is reasonable. Maybe Seasoned Pyromancer on the play. Probably not since we're running 4 sweepers now. Fatal Push is good. Blood Chief's good. Heartless is good. I think I'm going to cut 1 Bolus from the top end here. Probably 1 See the Truth. Yeah, go that route. It's a little awkward that we have tap lands, a bunch of tap lands here, but I think this is okay. We at least have a piece of interaction. Not great though. We don't want to give our opponent card advantage, but like we're kind of going to be forced to. Esper Sentinel's just too good. We're going to draw 1 card here. We don't really play many spells that cost 4 or more. I think we just want to get rid of this here. That also gets him a card. Like she's not that big of a Verdane's not that big of a problem. Like for Bolus, yeah, but we have like plenty of ways to deal with this in the meantime. Hopefully they don't hit a green land. Of course, just nailed that perfect green land there. They could do collected company response, and if they hit the Ranger Paladin, they can sacrifice it right away, so I can't cast spells. Then we have Lear to come in the following 2 turns. Like we can cast Inquisition with her next turn if we want, but we'll have Expressive Iteration and Anger's Rampage available to us. Opponent's at least not in position to attack right now, so that's great. We can also play Bolus next turn and pay the tax for Esper Sentinel. Unless they put that counter from Luminarch Aspirin on it, then we can't pay it. Okay, so now we just need to hit one of our sweepers. That's pretty good. Yeah, what we need here is we need a sweeper. They're going to draw 3 cards here, which is pretty nuts. Of course, we haven't found a sweeper. Pretty rough for us. But we've already given them so much card advantage, like we have to find a way to sweep the board. Esper Sentinel's just so good. We play an Orzhov version of the same deck. But from what I've seen, the mono white ones actually look a little bit better than just splash for Collected Company. They also play that 3-drop. It's 1 colorless, 2 white, and its power is equal to the number. It's like a X4, and its power is equal to the number of creatures you control. And whenever you attack, you create a 1/1 human token attacking, tapped and attacking. It's pretty nice. Like if we could hit any one of our sweepers off the top, that would be great. Any one of our 4 sweepers would be great. We will just take 4 here. It's marginal at this point. Can't believe we actually hit Yanis off the top. Oh, and then they just hit another Coco off the top. Come on. Come on now. Oh, great. They can sacrifice Ranger Captain of Eos this next turn. They have to sack it now. If they wait until I cast the spell, it doesn't matter. Oh, I don't think it matters. Because even if we remove one of these guys, we still lose next turn. So they got us. Pretty close though. We just didn't find a sweeper soon enough. We allowed the opponent to draw like 7, 8, 9 cards, but it was the point where we had to allow them to draw cards because we were falling behind on board so much. Overall, it didn't turn out too bad. If we would have hit a sweeper like 2, maybe 3 turns earlier, I think we would have been fine. So just some unfortunate, fortunate non-drawing of the cards that we need to win that matchup. So nice little display at least. The deck was able to do its thing a couple times so you guys can kind of see, and it varies on matchup to matchup. I think, again, that there can be some adjustments in the sideboard, maybe the main deck as well. But it's really fun. Just being able to, tear apart your opponent's hand and cast sweet spells is pretty cool. It definitely needs more graveyard hate if it wanted to be really competitive. It would just need a little bit of changing here. But fun deck if you like Grixis. Highly recommend you check it out. I'll have the link to the deck list in the description if you guys want to take a look at that and play it for yourselves. Again, if you have any questions, comments, or anything, please feel free to let me know by doing so in the comment section. And I appreciate you guys checking out the video. I will catch everyone next time. Thanks for tuning in.